Hey guys, I'm doing a quick scanning tutorial on how to do basic scanning on cosmic signatures in nullsec. This will apply to lowsec and highsec as well. Nullsec is usually slightly more difficult to do. Your results also may vary based on your skill set. Looking up at your skills under the scanning tree here, the scanning skills are going to be based around your astrometric skill, astrometric pinpointing, astrometric range finding, and acquisition. The astrometric acquisition is going to be the dump stat, especially if you are a new player or just getting into exploration. This will reduce the amount of time in between scans, which will speed things up, but in the beginning, getting or being able to get a signature to 100%, at which point it becomes a warpable object or you can warp to it, is the key factor here. So I am using a Tech 2 Covert Ops frigate. These are the best scanning ships that you can get currently in the game as of the time of this video. In this case, I am using a Cheetah, which is obviously the Tech 2 variant of it. There is a Tech 1 variant of it, which is called the Probe for Mimitar. I use Mimitar ships. All of them are fine ships to be scanning in. I personally favor the Mimitar, simply for the reason that I like the smaller signature and the faster align time that I end up getting with them. You do, however, lose a mid slot, which can be a little bit on the rough side. So to each their own, get in the best scanning ship that you can afford with the skills that you have. What you need is a probe launcher. Here I'm using a Sister's expanded probe launcher. You do not need an expanded probe launcher for scanning down just normal cosmic signatures. You do need an expanded probe launcher for using combat probes, which is used to scan down specific items and other players and ships. This tutorial is not going to be covering combat probing. In here, I also have 8 sister core scanner probes loaded. The core scanner probes are the highest scan strength probes that you can get. There's the core and the combats. The core probes are used for scanning down the signatures only. The Sisters Combat probes specifically are the most reasonable variant that you can get. The Tech 1 probes, I will not say they are completely useless, but they are something that is to be used in a pinch. All of these probes are launched and used in sets of 8. You want to pick them up and you load them into your launcher as if you would ammo into a normal gun. I'm using the expanded probe launcher. There are core probe launchers. Core probe launchers will only fit sister core scanner probes into it. The expandeds will fit sister core scanning probes as well as the combat scanning probes if you have them or so choose. The expanded probe launchers are usually slightly more expensive. They are also a lot harder to fit in CPU. In this case, I won't be utilizing that, but I would highly suggest getting 8 sister core scanner probes. Don't use the Tech 1 variants unless you actually really have to. In here, I'm also using Covert Ops cloaking device, which aside from the scan strength that you get on the Tech 2 Cheetahs, which is the Covert Ops frigates that I'm currently using, it's being able to have the Covert Ops cloaking device gives you a distinct advantage by being able to remain cloaked while warping around. If you're using the Tech 1 variant of it, you can use a Tech 1 or Tech 2 regular or non-Covert Ops cloak, which you can still cloak with, and it is essential, but you cannot warp with it, which makes you a lot more vulnerable to being ganked by people. I also have for rigs here, small gravity capacitor upgrade 1s. These increase my scan strength. There's 2 of them. I'm using the Tech 1s because, well, calibration doesn't allow the Tech 2s. I have 2 scan pinpointing array Tech 2s. This reduces your scan deviancy. The larger the radius that you're trying to scan something in, the more likely it is to be off by a further amount. That or these mid-slot items reduce that. Use them if you can, and to each their own with preferences. Scan range finding array will increase the sensor strength of the probes and make it easier for you to get your signatures to 100%. Once they're at 100%, you can warp to them. I also have a prop mod. This is good for crashing gates, getting out of bubbles if that so happens. I have a fitting mod, micro auxiliary power core 1, and 2 nanofibers in the lows. So nothing combat with this. Do not use these ships in combat. You will die. Some of the other Tech 2 scanning ships end up giving you drones. Drones are, I don't like the drones because it just gets you into bad situations of where you may try getting into combat. You may try popping something which you have no reason to. These are not combat ships. With that out of the way, what I will do first of all is I'm setting off a Keepstar in ZOYW in Declan. I will warp to a Celestial. Let me see here. Celestial, let's go to a moon. Warp at 20 kilometers. 20
Warp
kilometers sounds
active.
good. I'm going to warp off there just for sake of practicality. I could also scan straight from that tether, but let's assume that we don't have a whole bunch of safe structures here. We have some hostiles and local. They could be trying to gank me. Who knows? These guys here, however, are Goonswarm. Goonswarm doesn't gank anybody. But for demonstration purposes, I'll be cloaking for this. So I will launch my probes by left-clicking on my probe scanner with it loaded with core scanner probes in it. They will launch around me. I will now cloak up my ship, and I will move off in a random direction. Move off in a random direction because they can see the probes, but they cannot see me while I am cloaked. I'm going to be very difficult, if not completely impossible, to decloak. Cloaks, if you are not aware already, if you run into any object within 2,500 meters or 2.5 kilometers from you, you will decloak your ship. You do not want to have that happen if at all possible, especially in these scanning ships. You can, however, scan while cloaked. You do want to be cloaked while scanning if you can help it at all. So these ships are scan bonused, meaning the hull bonuses on the ship, show info, will show you that they gain core and combat scanner probe sensor strength. Also the time reduction, that's for survey probes. But this is going to be your big one here of where you get sensor strength bonuses as well as relic and data strength on the hull itself. That's for running relic and data sites. And we may find one here. So you pull up your probe scanner, which is this right here. Alt-P is the default hotkey. It toggles it on and off. I will now switch to the scanning interface. Click on this button right here, which is the solar system map. Left click. Oh, in the filters here, by the way. Cosmic signatures, make sure that is selected. If you put anomalies, there's a whole bunch of anomalies. It can be very messy while scanning if you have anomalies enabled. Let me show you. I'll flip over to the scanning interface here. You see lots of green extra stuff that you don't need. Go into your filters, do yourself a favor, disable the anomalies. Cosmic signatures are the ones that you're trying to scan down. With that there, you have your probes and this interface right here. By default, it may have shown you on the spread formation like so. Spread formation is not particularly useful for scanning down signatures at all. It can be used in a couple of very niche situations with combat probing, which I'm not currently covering in this tutorial. So for 95% of your scanning needs, you're going to be using the pinpoint formation. Left click on the far left icon here. Pinpoint formation, and it will group your 8 probes like so. If you're curious where your 8 probes are, you can use your left shift as a modifier key, and it will show you each individual probe here. You don't usually end up wanting to move them around like that. You move them around in a group, it's much more wieldy. So in this case, with your mouse, if you scroll forward, you zoom out from whatever your currently selected point or target is. Scrolling down will zoom you in. In here, our target is obviously, ouch, the sun. You can change your target by double left clicking on something. So if I want to center my viewpoint or the focal point on where my probes currently are, I'll find this box in the middle here, double click on it. My view is now centered on where my probes currently are, making it much easier for me to zoom in and out. I usually like zooming in on the cosmic signature that I'm trying to scan down. So in this case, I'll click up here on my probe scanner, double left click, which is almost the same spot here. This here is where the center of the signature for the cosmic signature is. You'll notice a red sphere around it. It can potentially be anywhere within the field of this red sphere. So I could scan right now and I could find it, or I might miss it if it's down here, for example. So what I'll do is I will left click and drag on these arrows until I can get it right about the middle here. Now, you need to do it from both planes of where this is pretty straight on. So you want to look at it from the side, then you want to look at it from the top. There is a shortcut for this, which will make your life much easier by going in space and double clicking in space. If you do that, it'll put you to the side, double click again, it'll move you directly over top of it. So it can make this a relatively painless process. Now you can adjust the range on these probes by either left clicking on the blue stuff here and dragging it outward. Let me see here. Or what I usually end up doing is I hold down my Alt key, left Alt key, scroll your mouse. If you scroll in or scroll up, it will expand the range of your probes. Scroll down and it reduces the range of your probes. So in this case, we want it to have our blue blob of where our probes are scanning slightly larger than where the signature we're trying to scan. So we have this right here. It's more or less over top of everything else, and it's slightly larger outside of the range. Now we'll click on Analyze. You can left click here, or as it shows right above there, B is my hotkey or for analyzing these probes. So I can either left click on the Analyze button or press B on my keyboard as long as I don't have any text fields selected. So if I click down here and have a cursor, I have to left click in space to deselect that before I can use the B key. As you'll see here, I've got a whopping 4.7% on this. I will double click on it again on the signature, so I'm centered on the signature of where it is. So now what I need to do is I need to recenter my probes. You can either use these arrows, drag and drop them over top here, double left click out in space to get onto the side, put it down just a little bit. Now I will hold my left Alt key and scroll down. I want to reduce the area which I'm scanning. The smaller the area I'm scanning, the more accurate and stronger the result will be. So in this case, I'll drop it down by 1 tick, if you want to call it. So from 8 to 4 AU. I now press the B key and I will reanalyze again. I am remaining cloaked the entire time I'm doing this, by the way. I'm now up to 9.1%. This is a really difficult signature to scan down. So I'm going to double click on it again. I'm going to go over top of it. I'm going to readjust where my probes are. Double click in space to get back to the side. This time I'm going to narrow it down very far. Notice I've did 2 steps there. This you can kind of cheat if you have better skills. Now, what you have to keep in mind is you have to watch in your sensor strength. I'm doing another analyze right now. If this goes to 0, that means you reduced it too far and you've missed whatever your target was. So I got lucky that time and I didn't miss it. I'm up to 30.5%. At this point, when you're within the scan strength range, I can tell that it's a relic site. I cannot warp to it. I cannot tell what type of relic site it is because I do not have the signal strength up high enough. And this will not be warpable or by me or bookmarkable until I get this to 100%. So I'll now double left click on this, which centers me over the relic. I will again readjust my probes. Double left click in space to get the side view. Adjust it here. I will hold my left Alt button and put my probes down even smaller. Wait for the scanning to happen. I Perfect. I've now got it to 100%. Once you have it to 100%, you will see this little arrow here, warp to. You can also right click on it and warp to within a range or save the location as a bookmark. In this case, this is a relic site. Relic sites, you need relic analyzers, which I do not have equipped on this ship. So what I will end up doing here, I'll save this for my our corporation and bookmarks under the scan down folder. It neatly ends up putting in here the signature and what it's called. I'll submit that. It is now saved as a bookmark. I can warp back to it, or anybody else in my corp, because it's under corporate bookmarks, can now warp back to the signature under a bookmarks folder without them first having to scan it down. I will now pull my probes, click that by recover active probe button here. Now I will either press this to go back to my main screen, or more easily, press your escape key once. It'll chuck you back to this screen here. Now, I could try to go reload my sister core scanner probes, but I'm cloaked. It doesn't work that way. So what I can do is I'm going to decloak. I'm going to reload these, and I'm going to warp to 3 QE. So this is the only signatures in the system currently. I'm going to warp over to 3 QE where I know there's a couple of signatures that I haven't gotten scanned down yet. Good, no baddies on grid. That's a bonus. Jumping through the gate. When I jump through the gate, I want to scan something. There we go. I have 3 signatures in here. 2 of them I've halfway scanned down already, doing 16 trials of recording this video. I'll double click in space, launch my probes, quickly put on my cloaking device, and then I will go off into the horizon in a random direction. And what I'll do, I've got these scanned down. These are both wormholes. So I'll click on my system map again, double click on one of these, and it remembers until you log out of the game what you've already scanned down, which is pretty handy. Also a relatively new feature to scanning. Quite welcomed one at that. So I'll hold down my Alt key and scroll my mouse forward because I want to bloom out the area I'm scanning. Oh, and go from the side here. Now go back to the top, realign it a little bit, double click on the side. That looks okay. Now I'll press B and I will wait for the probes to analyze the results. As you'll see, once you do that, they warp off grid. Unstable wormhole. So here, I can save this as well. Fair warning when you're saving wormholes. If I save the wormhole here, it'll say PWK unstable wormhole. I will not save it like this. I'll show you why right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to warp to this bookmark, or warp to this wormhole at 0.
Warp drive active.
I'm going to press escape so you can see where I land. Where the signature is for a wormhole, just like it is for a site, but specifically a wormhole, will not land you at 0 on the wormhole. If I'm in a frigate like I am now, that can be relatively negligible. This is where the wormhole signature is. This over here is where the wormhole is. So if you're in, I don't know, let's say you're in a capital ship landing here, and you land on the far side of this, you could be 8, 10, 12 kilometers off the wormhole. If you've ever been in a large ship with no prop mod crawling 12 kilometers, it's not fun and your corp mates will not be impressed with you. If you do have these, I would generally suggest warping to wormholes at 30 kilometers. That way you don't accidentally decloak yourself on the wormhole itself or any hostile ships that are possibly going around it. So I will select the wormhole by left-clicking, right-click on it, save location. Here, unfortunately, it just says wormhole. I need to add the rest of the data myself. So what I'm going to do is press home, PXK TAC 475 space wormhole. Now, I usually like adding extra info I have, so I'll right-click and show info on the wormhole. This leads in a null security space. new hole, and it's very large. So it's had some ships passing through here, but not to a critical degree. That means somebody's been using this wormhole. Who? I have absolutely no idea. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put in brackets V large, and I'm going to learn how to spell. And I'm probably going to put null in brackets here. That way, give a little bit of information for any of my other court mates that want to end up checking this hole out. So this is a K162 wormhole, so this is the end point of the wormhole system. Wormholes are a whole other ball of wax. This will just allow you to scan them down and find where the wormhole and the problem's coming from. Now, I have this wormhole bookmarked at 0 on the wormhole. This is important. Your court mates will like you for this. If you just right-click and save it like I did on the other signature in ZOY that we scanned down, that's fine for relic sites, but for wormholes, as I said, they do not want to be landing 8 or 10K off the wormhole. They want to get as close to 0 as they can. Anyways, this concludes basic scanning with the with core combat or with core probes. Combat probes, I'll be making another tutorial as well. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or anything else I missed, feel free to pop by the Slice TeamSpeak or hit us up on Slice Discord, the Mythically Intoxicated. This is Blitz Hacker. Good luck, and talk to you soon.